Hello, and welcome to another episode on the Everyday Joy podcast. Hey, don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and with your family, especially if there's a topic that you think would really resonate with them. And on that note, one of the ways we can grow this podcast and have more people discover everyday joy is by you leaving a 5-star written review. It really does help spread the word. Right now, though, let's get into today's Bible verse.
You will say the wrong thing if you talk too much, so be sensible and watch what you say. That's Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19 from the CEV Bible.
Yeah, I've got Jackie here in the studio with me.
Just a slight little pause there. A very deliberate pause.
We call it the pause of conviction.
The pause of conviction. It's so true. How are you, Joy?
Oh, I'm good. This verse is it's hilarious because here we are on a podcast and our whole shtick is talking.
And part of my point and my story is about filling silence just with random words because you feel uncomfortable. Anywho.
Gosh. Love it. At least we can all relate to that. You will say the wrong thing if you talk too much, so be sensible and watch what you say. Yep. I think my first impression of this one is that this for me is really hard. I think my natural impulse, like you mentioned, Jackie, isn't to not speak. It's to say random things to fill the silence.
Sorry.
Snorts are welcome on this podcast.
Now you know that I'm super comfortable and super into doing this with you, Joy, because I have now snorted on a podcast.
I feel privileged, Jackie.
Tick, life goal.
So what about you? What's your first impression of this one?
I think it's just great advice. Which is, great because that's what Proverbs is. It's wisdom, it's advice, it's good ways to live. And it just it reminds me of just, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is that classic saying that we have heard 1,000 times before. Yeah. What does this verse tell you about who God is or what matters to him?
Yeah, I think it's saying that, you can tap into the wisdom he offers us, through Holy Spirit. You can engage, that whole, engage brain before opening mouth. Yeah, let's do that. Before you're about to rabbit on and say something just to fill a silence or because you're feeling fear in that silence or whatever, engage with the Holy Spirit. Even if it's just as quick as the pause of conviction and, oh, help me, Holy Spirit. Okay, give me the words. Great. Then we can roll on. I think it's great. I think he's giving us the capacity and the reminder and the ability to, check in with our wisdom and use it.
Yes, and use it. Oh my goodness. What I love about about this verse and what it tells me about God is that he lives this. He models this. And Jesus modeled this when he was on earth as well. I mean, his words were recorded in red print. So he kind of had to be a little careful with what he said. But I just love it. I recall that story in the Bible where there was a woman who was condemned and they were all about to stone her, and Jesus writes something in the sand. Now, we don't know what Jesus wrote.
Theologians have, put forward hypotheses for the eons on what he actually wrote.
What did Jesus write in the sand? And it was only for her eyes to read. And when I go to heaven, that's one of the first things I'm going to ask. That, and did Adam have a belly button? But the truth is...
Oh my gosh, I've never ever thought about that before, and now it'll live rent-free in my head.
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, my follow-up question is, did Eve have a belly button?
Yeah.
So...
So good.
Oh, so I just love this verse because what it tells me is that sometimes words spoken don't need to be the only way you communicate.
And, well, ironically, I guess a little bit to that is that people don't hear our words as much as they hear what we're saying without using our words.
Yeah. And going back to that story about Jesus writing on, in the sand, you know what I love? What it tells me, because Jesus didn't utter a word in that moment. He did say something afterwards, but in that moment, he didn't say anything. But what that whole action told me was, number one, some conversations are private.
Yep.
Number two, sometimes no one else needs to know what happened.
Yep.
in that exchange.
Yep.
And lastly, Jesus bent down and wrote in the sand. I mean, it was the kind of conversation and the kind of, posture. I mean, if you think about who he is, to bend down in the sand and to write and I'm not talking like playground sand we have at schools. This is like 2,000 years ago sand that's mixed in with probably a lot of not so great stuff.
Yeah.
And he's writing in the sand, and I think what that tells me is his ability to go down and to connect with someone on a beautiful heart level so that only they can see it, only they can appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what that whole thing tells me about the way Jesus lives out this verse, and I've seen in scriptures, is that Jesus was very careful with the words that he used.
Yep.
And when he didn't use words, his actions spoke volumes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I can think of and another one of the great mysteries of the Bible and Jesus' ministry, he bent down, he mixed some sand to make dirt, and he smeared them on the dude's eyes.
And he was healed, by the way.
Right? Paraphrasing there, obviously. But it's another one of these great mysteries where it, like you say, that conversation in inverted commas that took place between Jesus and that man was private, was just for them.
Yeah.
And in both situations, both with the lady accused of adultery and the blind man, there were people around them running their mouths off. And Jesus said, no, I'm about the one. I'm about having this conversation with this person at this time. I don't see your sin. I don't see your disability. I don't see anything like that. But I'm here with you. And it's all about you.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to waste my words. I'm not going to babble at you. I'm just going to use my actions to show you how much I love you.
Yeah. What a powerful thought for us to carry into our days, because maybe you're listening and you're like, you struggle with your words, or you feel like you never quite get them out in the right way, and you stress about that a little bit. Not everyone has the gift of the gab. And you don't need to. I think what Jesus explored and showcased in those two moments was that you don't have to always have the right things to say.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to step up and do the action and be there for that person and show that love. One of the ways that I really feel like I've seen this happen in my life in terms of love being shown without words is I've got someone who is a very, very dear friend of mine, but they have very low energy levels. Very low, to the point where having conversations is taxing for them sometimes. And so one of the things that I'm often trying to do and trying to communicate with them without using too many words or too much energy is I just send memes. I just send them memes because it's low input. I don't need to say, hey, I'm praying for you, I hope you get well, although that's nice to say. But there's other ways for me to kind of express and do all of those sorts of things. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Memes are just a way to communicate in and of themselves that is absolutely like spot on. You can say a lot with a good meme.
Yep. Yes, you can. How has this verse come alive in your world, Jackie? And also, what does this one tell you about who God is?
Yeah, I think it tells us that God is just, He wants the best for us. He wants us to listen to his wisdom and then, like we were saying earlier in the week, play our part. Become in partnership with God to outwork what he wants for us. There are other verses in the Bible where God gives us the tools and the capacity to outlive this verse in our lives. He's given us access on how to be sensible. We can tap into Holy Spirit. He's given us the fruits of the Holy Spirit. In Galatians 5:22-23, it says, God's Spirit makes us loving, happy, peaceful, patient, kind, good, faithful, gentle, and self-controlled. And so if self-controlled doesn't relate to you will say the wrong thing if you talk too much, so be sensible and watch what you say. I don't know what is. It also says in 2 Timothy, God's Spirit doesn't make cowards out of us. The Spirit gives us power, love, and self-control. So, we can get to one area where I struggle with the babble is, I have a certain family member who doesn't use a lot of words, uses silences perhaps to indicate their superiority of knowledge. Take that how you will. And I tend to get, not so much now, because the more I became aware of it, the more I was actually able to say, hey, Holy Spirit, give me some self-control here, give me some wisdom, give me some patience, help me be peaceful in this moment.
Yeah.
But I used to fill up those gaps, and I would end up saying the stupidest things. And all it did was give this person more reason to kind of go, yeah, you stupid. Or, why are you saying these inane things? But as you become more aware of that, and you step into Holy Spirit, and you step into this verse, and, being sensible and watching what you say, it got easier, and I'm less likely to do it now.
Learning to be okay with the silence.
Yeah.
Maybe a helpful thing for you, if you particularly find that hard, is keep the conversation going, but keep it going between you and God.
Yeah, absolutely.
I struggle with silence, and when you see me silent, it's probably because there's like some frantic praying going on in my mind.
It's so true, isn't it? I may be outwardly silent, but on the inside, I'm having a good old chat that may involve an age of panic.
Yeah.
So.
But what a gift that is. What a gift that is.
An amazing gift. Imagine that, being given a mentor that lives rent-free in your head, that is directly from God, that says, actually, hold your tongue now. Nope, now's the time to speak. Say this. What more could we ask for?
Yeah.
How good.
It's so good. And you know what? I love this. I love this verse because it gives us a warning, but I love all the other verses that you bring, which gives us solutions.
Yes.
And so good. I'll read out those the references again. So go check out Galatians 5:22-23 and read 2 Timothy 1:7, because this tells you what God gives us. Today's verse focuses on what we shouldn't be doing. It's more of a cautionary tale, and we need both. We need both what not to do and then how to do it.
Yep.
So all of these verses in unison, I think, create for a great study into how we can use our words wisely and also to be okay in the silence.
And that is the great thing about God, right? He not only gives us the edict to say, behave like this and do this, but he gives us the tools to be able to do it as well.
Well, here we are at the end of today's episode. What a conversation. Oh my gosh. And hey, if you've really enjoyed today's guest, chances are they've been on the podcast before and they've talked about similar things. So go back through the catalogue, have a quick listen, and you can find that person or that story or that topic that really resonates with you. I'd also encourage you to share this episode with those in your world who might also really find today's episode helpful. Let's spread the joy, let's spread the light, and sending a simple link to a podcast episode, gosh, in the same way it's maybe changed something in your life, it could create massive ripples of change in their life too. So don't hesitate. If you love the podcast, share it, because that's what it's all about, right? Sharing the love. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to catching up again next time.